Issues a batch of pre-Christmas pardons and commutations. In a late move yesterday, the president granted full pardons to 15 individuals and commuted part or all of the sentences of an additional 5. One person on the list, former campaign aide George Papadopoulos, whose activities set off the Russia investigation. The former foreign policy advisor on Trump's 2016 campaign pleaded guilty to lying to federal investigations in relation to Robert Mueller's Russia investigation, serving 2 weeks in prison 2 years ago. Now, George has been a vocal defender of the president, and he joins us now live. George Papadopoulos, always great to see you. Thanks so much for joining us here on the program.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So after the news came out yesterday, you posted a message of gratitude on your Twitter account saying this. We'll pull it up. You said, "Thank you, Mr. President. This means the world to me and my family." George, just tell me about that moment when you'd received word that you would be pardoned. Had you talked to the president prior to that time?
Yeah, so the pardon came completely unexpected. Actually, I was just laying or watching TV with my wife, and we were just thinking about doing some last-minute Christmas shopping, and all of a sudden, my phone starts blowing up, and her phone's blowing up, and from messages from people I haven't heard from in years, ex-business partners and friends who all of a sudden want to get back in contact, and obviously the media wanted some response to what ended up being a full pardon by the President of the United States. So it was a tremendous surprise. I'm very grateful for the President pardoning me, and it really did mean a lot to me and my family as well.
Yeah, just in time for the holidays. Clearly, if you're Christmas shopping, that is a surprise announcement for you to receive there. And, you know, George, I know we've spoken many times about the Durham report, waiting for it to come out, the findings to be published and released. And I know a lot of people, at least from the Trump campaign, are looking for some sort of justice in regards to what was done throughout this whole Russia investigation. Is this somewhat of a step in that direction for you? Is this the first step towards justice?
Yeah, so it seems that we've been moving in a bit of a slower pace than I would have liked, and probably millions of Americans out there who want transparency and the good for the country. But we've just recently had declassified documents come out by the president and the DNI, which have suggested that there were illegal wiretaps on me and even the vice president of Fox News at the time when I was on the campaign, and other illicit and illegal behavior that surrounded myself, including various entrapment efforts by the Obama administration. So what I think the president's strategy has been by declassifying certain documents the way he has are two things. The first is it's forced various witnesses to come and testify in front of the Senate, like Rod Rosenstein, Sally Yates, Jim Comey, and Andy McCabe, to force them to disavow their own work and to basically state that they would have never signed off on any of these warrants should they have known what they knew now. And the second thing it does, it probably will be one of President Trump's most tremendous political achievements, because he did expose the rotten corruption that pervaded his predecessor's attempt to not only undermine the democratic process in this country, but to also halt the smooth transition of power to the Trump administration, which, of course, the Trump administration has been fighting for now almost 4 years. So I think that's what these documents that have been released over the last couple of weeks signify, and I think we're going to be expecting a lot more moving forward.
Okay, the president also pardoning Alex Zwaan, who was the first to be formally sentenced for lying to the FBI in Mueller's investigation. Does this sort of speak to sort of the president's decision to undo all that was done in the Russia probe? Again, we see this pardon coming out. You said you anticipate more documents and information being declassified?
I think transparency is the more transparency, the better. And I'm talking about documents here, because when Robert Mueller used to testify or go public, the less Robert Mueller, the better for the opponents. What we want is more transparency. We want all these documents out there. I know I want them all out there. I know the president has ordered all Russiagate documents to be declassified. and Congressman Devin Nunes and other congressmen and even Senator Lindsey Graham have been very public that this all has to come out. The American people need to know exactly what happened in 2016 and how it's impacted not only the midterms in 2018, but this most recent election and impeachment. So much of what happened in 2016 has affected not only the last 4 years as a whole, but the Trump administration. I mean, they've been fighting on defense from day one, and they've had this fight and claw their way towards now where this contested election. So it all starts from 2016, and that's why it's so important for these documents to get out. The American people deserve it, and transparency is definitely going to be the most adequate prescription to assure that this never happens again to any president.
You know, we're less than a month away from January 20th, Inauguration Day. Clearly, the president decided to work your pardon into his schedule. We also know that he pardoned General Michael Flynn as well. But we haven't seen anything about Paul Manafort, as well as Julian Assange or Edward Snowden as well. Do you think potentially they could be receiving pardons down the line?
I know certain allies of the president have publicly stated that Assange and some have even asked for Snowden to be pardoned. You don't hear it as much for some of the others. I know the president feels that most of the victims, and I call them victims of the Russia probe, were unjustly targeted and illegally targeted, including Paul Manafort. I mean, Paul Manafort wasn't targeted for any campaign-related activities, but about tax and banking issues from almost a decade ago. Now, why would Bob Mueller and his Democrat prosecutors go after Paul Manafort and sentence him to around 7 years in prison for things that happened a decade before he ever worked for candidate Donald Trump? It just goes to show you how wide of a net they try to cast to catch anybody surrounding or close to the president and candidate in some sort of crime to make the president look like he was up to something wrong, that he was surrounding himself with criminals, which we now know, based on the various documents that have been released, that this entire situation that we all found ourselves in had absolutely no basis to have been launched. That's according to the Attorney General and John Durham, and that most or all of the activity surrounding the special counsel and the Comey FBI was illegal, including one of these FBI lawyers having to plead guilty and John Durham recommending a 6-month prison sentence for him. So I think there's a lot more that's going to be coming out, and it's going to be a great day for America once it's all out.
Okay, and everyone, you know, is waiting for things to become finalized and released officially. And I'll ask you, George, we only have a little bit of time left here, but it is the last day of work for AG Bill Barr, right? He's going on holiday, and then he will be replaced by an acting attorney general throughout the remainder of President Trump's term here. How would you rate his performance as Attorney General? Would you have liked to seen him take more steps in regards to finding justice for those who were taken through the ringer with this whole Russia probe?
Look, I think Attorney General Barr did some tremendous work that some people might have forgotten, because obviously we live in this fast-moving news cycle, including his personally traveling around the globe to learn about the origin of the Russia probe that actually resulted in not only John Durham's probe metastasizing into a criminal investigation, but he also appointed John Durham as a special counsel. We can't forget that. This almost makes it impossible now for Joe Biden, should he ascend to the presidency, to fire John Durham without tremendous political costs and potential criminal liability to himself. So I think Attorney General Barr went as far as he wanted to, that he was comfortable with. He has passed on the baton to the incoming Attorney General, who will be an acting Attorney General for the last 3 weeks or so. And we'll see what he comes up with. And it should be a bumpy ride, I think, for a lot of individuals who think that this is just going to be a lame duck president who's not going to be active, or his administration isn't either.
All right. Well, we will wait and see. We'll be along for the ride. In the meantime, George Papadopoulos taking the time to join us this morning and speak out for the first time since news of that presidential pardon. George, thanks for joining us. And of course, Merry Christmas to you and your family. Newsmax TV is now America's fastest growing cable news channel. We give you the real news you need. So subscribe to our YouTube channel and give us a thumbs up. If you like this video, share it with your friends. Newsmax TV streams live on YouTube for free. Newsmax TV, real news for real people.